Hi everyone, my name's Mel. Welcome back to my bookshelf. Now I know it's been a while since I've posted a video and I'm sorry, but I have a good reason. I've got 3 good reasons, in fact. First up, my cat died and she's been with me for a very long time without giving away my age. I got her when I was 21, so that was a long time ago, and I was a bit distraught for a good couple of weeks there. I didn't even think about picking up a book. So we were all very devastated, myself, my husband and the children. Second reason is a bit of a happier one. I got a new job and it's like my dream job. Very excited. It's not very many hours a week at the moment, but it's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm so happy to be doing it. But I am also working in my current job full time. So I'm doing full-time work plus this fabulous job on top of that. So it's really made reading sort of last on the list. I really wanted to do well and make a good impression and just put my heart and soul into this new venture. So I haven't had time to pick up a book. And thirdly, university's gone back for the year. And because I didn't have enough on my plate, I'm finishing my masters. I'm in the last stretch. I can see the light. I've got less than 2 months to go, and then that will be an accumulation of a lot of years of study, and I'm really, really excited to be finally finished. So not only am I working full-time with 2 children, I'm working an extra job and I'm doing my masters. So as you can imagine, I haven't really picked up a book. But one thing that I do a lot of now is driving. I drive to and from work, to and from kids' activities, and I also do a lot of washing, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And so I've still been managing to get some books read, but just not physically read, listened to. So let's go through all the audiobooks that I have listened to since my last video when I was actually physically reading. There's a few of them. So I finally read the first 2 Dresden Files. So I've been wanting to read these for years, never got around to it. So I finally decided to bite the bullet and listen to them on audio. Listen to the first 2. So Stormfront and Fool's Moon. So the Dresden Files, for those of you who don't know, is about a man called Harry Dresden, who's a wizard and he's also a private investigator. So he solves crimes and gets himself into all these situations which are funny and adventuresome and good fun. However, the first two of them now have kind of just melded into one in my head, so I am putting off the third for a while. I've got it sitting on my phone ready to go, but I'm just having a bit of a break. The good thing about it is it's narrated by James Masters, who was Spike in Buffy. So listening to him is taking me back to my adolescence, which is interesting, and his voice is very soothing and lovely, and I'm really quite enjoying the audiobooks. Another one I've been meaning to read for ages, and I keep seeing Michael Crichton everywhere. There's some Michael Crichton read-alongs happening now. I think Mike's Book Reviews is doing one. Michael Crichton everywhere, and I just finished Jurassic Park recently, and I loved Jurassic Park, the book. I found it much better than the movie. So everyone's raving about Sphere, so I thought I'll try the audio version. Surely it will be wonderful. And so I gave that a go, and I really didn't think that much of it, to be honest. It wasn't even that it felt dated, which of course it was. It was just really, really long. Like, I had it on 1.5 speed, which is pretty fast, and it still just dragged on and on and on for me. The plot of Sphere is a psychologist named Norman gets called. He usually works with like plane crash victim survivors and family to help them cope, and so he figures, I'm going out to another plane crash when the military send for him, and then they sort of say, well, yes, it was a crash of sorts, but it was a space vehicle that had crashed. And he's thinking, oh, okay, it's a space vehicle, that's fine, that's just like any other crash, I guess. And then they sort of say, well, no, this space vehicle has actually been underwater for the last 300 years. So what is it? Is it alien? Is it not? What's the story behind it? And when they get down there, they find this sphere that doesn't seem to open, and it looks alien, and all these weird things start to happen. And although it sounds really interesting, it just really dragged on, and I was really disappointed. Even the ending, which was like hyped up, I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. And I'm actually second guessing my continuing with Michael Crichton. So if you have any other books that you really enjoyed from Michael Crichton, other than Jurassic Park, let me know, because I just really wasn't taken with Sphere. One that was slightly better for me was The Lost Apothecary. So I saw this book, I saw the cover, and I pretty much bought it on a whim and downloaded it straight away because of the cover. I tend to do that. So it is set in 2 time periods. So there's the 1700s and the present day. So in the 1700s, there's this lady called Nella who runs this apothecary, but it's not your normal like lotions and potions apothecary. She sells poisons to women who've been wronged by men so that they can kill them. So she's quite a little serial killer actually, and she keeps this journal of all the people that she's helped, all the women that she's helped. And a young girl named Eliza is sent to her from her mistress for a potion for the mistress's husband, and she sort of gets enraveled in Nella's life and sort of becomes her apprentice. And so she's like this apprentice serial killer. So there's this story going on in the 1700s, but concurrently there's a story going on now of a character named Caroline who's travelled to England on a romantic holiday alone because her marriage is falling apart. Starts to discover things about Nella and Eliza's story that have been hidden for centuries. So it's just about how they sort of all intertwine. There's a little bit of magic. Overall, it was a really enjoyable read. I quite liked it. If you ignore some of the historically inaccurate parts about it, it was an enjoyable listen, and the narration was really good. There was a few people narrating it. I really like when they have different narrators for different characters, so you can really get into the story that way. It was really good. It was a fun escape, and I quite liked the ending. It was fitting. Now, another hyped one, Shadow and Bone. So I saw that the Netflix series of this is coming out in a couple of weeks actually. So I've wanted to read it for ages because I really liked Lee Bardugo's duology, Six of Crows. I thought that was fantastic. Amazing books, especially the second one. I really enjoyed it. So I was really interested in going back to the beginning of this world, which is into the Shadow and Bone series. So the book is about a girl named Alina and her childhood friend Mal. So they're soldiers in this fantasy land called Ravka. So they grew up together in an orphanage. Ravka is like divided by this thing of black fog, which they call the fold. And so that kind of divides the land, and to get to the other side you have to travel through it. But as soon as you go into it, there's all these magical creatures that attack you, and there's really risky to go in. You're not likely to come out the other side. They have to make this trek through the fog, and Mal gets in trouble with one of these winged creatures, and all of a sudden Alina lets out this light that scares all the creatures away and saves Mal's life. But then there's this magical like race of people called the Grisha who kind of take her into custody and sort of say, well, you're a light bringer. And she's like, what's that? I don't know what that is. And one of them sort of forces her under his wing to go and learn how to become one of them. Look, it was a good premise, but it just didn't work for me. Something about young adult, the angst that some young adult books have just really doesn't work for me. And I felt as though, and I don't know if this is because I read the other duology first, it just didn't do anything new. I wasn't that taken with it, and I know that it's so popular, and this is a really unpopular opinion. Too much angst. I really didn't like the love triangle, which was kind of a love triangle, but kind of not, but kind of yes, but kind of no, and it was just all over the place, and it just didn't do it for me. Although I really like the look of the series, and I'm going to watch the series, and maybe I'll like that more than I liked the book. You never know. And I've only read the first one. I haven't read any more, and sometimes things get better after the second and third installment. So if you read it and really liked the whole thing, and you think it gets better after the first book, let me know, because I'm on the edge of whether I try the second one. It's more going to be a no at the moment. Let's go into a book that I adored now, and that was The Split by probably my all-time favorite author, Sharon Bolton. So Sharon Bolton is my favorite author because she writes these amazingly twisted, crazy thrillers. And even though I like, my favorite genres to read are probably sci-fi and fantasy, but there's something about the way that Sharon Bolton writes and the atmosphere that she creates in her books that are spooky, they are fun, they are witty, they are sexy, they are dark, they are mysterious, and sometimes I will just be on the edge of my seat and I can literally just devour her books. So twisted, like so twisted, but in such a good way. The Split is a standalone thriller, so I love the settings that she does her books in, and this one is in the island of South Georgia. So when I first heard South Georgia, I was like thinking it was in the States somewhere, but it's actually right down the bottom of the world near Antarctica and the Falkland Islands. So this book is about a woman named Felicity who she studies glaciers, and she is working and living at the bottom of the world in the island of South Georgia. She soon discovers that someone from her past is coming to the island to get her, and so she is terrified. She packs a bag, she gets ready to go into the middle of this island, into the freezing wilderness to escape this man who's coming to get her. And so you can never rely on the narrators in Sharon Bolton's books. There's always something else going on, and this one's no exception. And it starts to go back in time to see sort of who this man is and what has happened to her and why she's so afraid. And then it goes forward again and back again. There are a few really amazing twists. I saw a few of them coming. I got it from a very early point, maybe because I'm quite used to Sharon Bolton's writing now, so I can kind of see what's the most twisted thing that you could possibly do in this story. I can half guess it, but there was so many things that I had no idea were coming, and I love that because I read so many thrillers as well. I find that I tend to guess really early the big twists. So one thing I love about Sharon Bolton is I'm always surprised. I just absolutely love everything that Sharon Bolton writes. I just think she is wonderful. Her books always stay with me after the last page. So I don't like reading one of her books after the other because I just like to let it sort of wash over me and just sink in, and I just swim in it. I just love her. Another one that I listened to, what was it? It was a big one. Before They Were Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. And what a brilliant series this is. I started listening to Before They Were Hanged straight after I listened to and read The Blade itself, but I think it might have been too soon. I didn't quite get absorbed into it, so I sort of put it on a break and listened to some other stuff, and then I came back to it, and I'm so glad that I did, because the second half was brilliant. It carries on from the first one, so if you haven't read The Blade itself, you really need to read that, or else you won't have a clue what's going on in the second one. But all the characters that you love and love to hate are back, especially I think he's my all-time favourite character of any book ever, and that is Glockter. And for those of you who have read the books, you will relate and probably agree with me on that. He is just the most complex, amazing character. He's got this dialogue that happens in his head as well as what comes out of his mouth, and there was so many times where I nearly wet myself laughing in this book. And there was one part of the book that I almost had to pull the car over because I was crying from laughter. And that's where, for those of you who've read it, when Glockter comes in to find Addie without any furniture, and so he tracks down, he takes all the furniture, and then what Addie does is just caught me totally by surprise, and I was in tears on my way to work, and it was just fantastic, and I just devoured. I could not stop listening to the second half of that book. It was just amazing, and I love every character's story and the quests and the violence and the blood and the gore and just the bleakness of the whole setting is really addictive, and I really enjoyed it. And I've already started the third book, and Glockter is just the best character. He's amazing. He's so good. I have a few on my to listen to list. I'm starting the read along with Media Death Cult doing Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds. I've listened to two Alistair Reynolds books so far. Really intricate, deep, exciting, awesome sci-fi. So I'm going to read the series starting with Revelation Space. I've also downloaded The Institute by Stephen King, which was recommended to me by a friend. So I'll give that one a go. I hear nothing but good things. The second Infinite is out. I didn't even know there was a second one coming. If you look through some of my like my recommended audiobooks video, Infinite was one of the ones for sci-fi that I recommend for beginners because it was so much fun. It was so easy to listen to, and I didn't even know there was a second one coming out. So my surprise when I saw this pop up in my recommendations. So I'm really excited about listening to that. And I still haven't gotten into Dead House Gates yet, which is the second in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I loved Gardens of the Moon, but I just haven't been in the right headspace to take on that mammoth Dead House Gates yet. So I have a lot to read. I've been sent a few books from some publishers that I will have to go through and show you guys what I've got. There's a few that look really, really good. Heaps of new audiobooks. My birthday's just gone, so I was given some book vouchers for my birthday, so I've been on a bit of a book spree there, and I've just bought a whole bunch of elementary books for my son, which I will go through with you guys as well. So there's lots to come. I just won't be reading physically anything other than medical journal articles for the next 2 months, so wish me luck. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.